Mr. Owodunni Okupe joins us now. He's of the Citizens' Rights Concept. Thank you for coming on this morning.
You're welcome.
Well, in the light of what is playing itself out now, the President has given a speech, Labour's given their position, Nigerians are all waiting and watching what happens next. From your reading of the current scenario, how do you interpret it?
Well, obviously, it indicates that we have an issue on our hands. Because before now, the civil society and Labour were demanding for going back to status quo. Whether it is 80 naira or 100 naira, the previous situation should be maintained. And that doesn't seem to be recognized or acknowledged by the government. So we have a situation where egocentric system is running in the veins of those who are in authority.
But as it is now, there are those who have said that at the moment it looks as though government is listening to the people, making such concession. But whether or not they give them exactly what they want isn't in a different matter entirely.
Government is not listening. Because government is trying to look for an escape route or make believe. We have played this game before, and as a nation, it's just like the case of Alibaba and the 40 thieves. Alibaba has gone, but 40 thieves are still around, and that's the problem we are having now, where we have not made up our mind whether we want to have the rule of law or the rule of rod. So if it is the rod, then the law is underpinned. If it's the rule of law, it's not about you as a person, but the office that you occupy and what you are sworn to uphold the Constitution.
Now, the President has reiterated that in the speech that he made this morning, that he swore to uphold the Constitution of this country and also the unity, the corporate existence of this country, which is very important in this particular instance. Don't you think that we are on the path to...
We are not. If you ask a child who's crying to keep quiet, just because you don't want noise in the house, it doesn't mean that there's peace. It is silence, but that doesn't mean that's peace. You better let him cry, and let those who are agitated, let them have their feelings, and that way you can gauge the nerves of the people.
In this particular instance, I mean, this child has been crying for the last 1 week.
Yeah.
How much longer do you think this child should keep crying for?
No, this child is not only crying, but the child is also yelling, and the child is also talking, and there's a difference.
Well, the difference is the government seems to be listening to the child, because if you look at the speech, you watched the speech this morning, and some of the demands of the people all through last week were some kind of probe into that particular sector of our national life, as well as, doing the needful first. The PIB, which is another very important bill, they want the government to look and see how it can be speedily passed into law. And in his speech this morning, he did say it will be given an accelerated attention.
You see, there's a problem, and until we address the problem, like I said, it's either we want to respect the rule of law or the rule of rod. The issue is this: the president has spoken this morning, and the people have spoken earlier before then. It has nothing to do with Labour. They are having a meeting with Labour, and I'm amazed that in the meeting they are having with Labour, we are having the Senate president and other governors there. They are division of Labour. We have the executive, the legislative, and the state government. They have different parameters and different obligations. They might as well bring the Chief Justice of Nigeria to be part of the discussion, and that is not what we are talking about. Yes, some of the agitation has been put into consideration in the speech that Mr. President made this morning. I appreciate that. But then we are looking at now a child is hungry, and he said, okay, I'm going to give you yam. Now, between the time you prepared the yam, what will he eat before the yam is ready? And that's why people are saying that let's first of all go back to status quo of 65 naira. Why we now know, and it's just like a case of a landlord who says that, look, you're occupying this place, your mother is paying 65 naira, but unknown to you right now, I have an agreement with him, is owing me 140 naira per month. And I said, okay, fine, I'm not against that. Let me pay you 65 naira. Bring all receipts and invoice to let me see what my mother is owing. He said, no, just pay me right now, pay me 97 naira. I'm in a hurry. I need some things to do. So my car is broken down somewhere, my mechanic is waiting for me, pay me 97 naira, and we'll talk later. I mean, it can't work that way.
But what do you think about those who say that we should rather be asking for how did you arrive at 97, as opposed to sticking to the guns and saying go back to 65 because something that may quote unquote be unrealistic. But if after when they present how they get to 95. If you're not satisfied with it, 97, then you can say no, this doesn't cut it.
Now let's look at it this way. We're earning 65. You see, the longer you stay on an issue, the more the opportunity you give your opponent to even investigate you further. It's like someone who has a problem and you are in the court. The moment you enter into that witness box, a lot of Pandora box will be opened concerning your background. Oh, Mr. Man, are you married? We understand you went to social school. You have other things that is not connected will be brought into fore. In this process, some of us, we have done a due diligence, and we even found the 65 naira questionable. That the landing cost of fuel is even 40 naira 50 kobo. But whether it is right or whether it is wrong, let's discuss about it. But the one that is not in dispute is the 65 naira, which is not fair to ask Nigerians to pay for the illegality, criminality of people, inefficiency in the system, and that is being collaborated by others, by ordinary Nigerians, to now fall back on paying 50% added to their daily things. That is a government who is meant to serve, not to rule. They're two separate things. I see the governors talking there for over 10 weeks. Many governors have not spoken, except for maybe the governor of Lagos State, Raji Fashola, and maybe of Osun State, or maybe one or two. So the issue is this: if we have to go back to 65 naira, within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you can get back and see where we are. And then let me also say, the House of Representatives passed a resolution, and the executive feel that resolution is not binding. What system are we running?
No, actually it isn't. It's advisory.
What does that mean? The people say, my constituency says this, my constituency said that, and then they put into vote, and they have majority talking in this light.
It wasn't a law.
It was not a law, but it was a motion.
It was just a resolution.
Just like the revered, highly respected Mr. Kejide said about a few days ago on your program. And he said, can this happen where in the House of Commons passed a motion and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom says that it's an adversary, even if it's an adversary, and I'm advising you in my capacity as a representative of my people in my area, in my local government, and you say, yeah, this is an advice. You are ruling.
No, but remember,
and you are not serving.
What they said was, hold on for a minute and then involve the people in your negotiations. Remember, the motion to revert to 65 naira failed. There was nothing that was said about those who may have been found guilty. So if you put all of those together, there are those who say, look, don't be political with Nigerians. We want more than that.
Chamberlain, that motion did not fail. The motion for 65 naira failed, but the motion that revert back, in essence, that means revert back to 65 naira, they revert back to the former position, while the NLC should also defer its own strike. That was the motion on ground.
Yeah, but neither of the parties obeyed. Even the people who are supposed to be...
As Labour.
Exactly, Labour, who the House of Reps should also be represented, because their constituency as well, right. They did not obey what the resolution said.
No, they did not obey the resolution. Now, who blinks? That is the issue. There are three tiers of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. The legislative, and don't forget that the NLC is just a former, that's called organized labor.
Yes.
Before the NLC came into the picture, there have been series of protests in the following day that the announcement was made, which in the first instance, is illegal. The PPRA secretary wrote a letter and said the price of this shall be this. That in itself violates the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, because it is the board of PPRA that's supposed to be constituted and review the price and pass a resolution. And it is the duty of the administrative secretary to pass it to the marketers. And that was not the case. So even if you have to go by that extension, the PPRA secretary is supposed to withdraw that letter he has written, which is illegal by itself. And I'm surprised why he himself has not been in jail by now, to have been taken to court.
Let us make a host of assumptions, so that we can find a way out of this. Right now, it seems we're in a quagmire of sorts.
That's correct.
The federal government has spoken about its 97 naira, and it seems Labour is still not accepting, so they are still on strike, even though mass protests have been called off. But looking at, you've talked about the PPRA, doing something that was pretty legal. Imagine now that it was legal. I'm on the
you asked me to imagine perception.
So let's say that it was legal, and that, you know, 441 naira was the price that was agreed, and, you know, we're all moving forward, but it's not acceptable to the people. So they say, no, we don't want 141 naira. We were not fully consulted with before this price was arrived at. Can we go back first? Where should we be going from now? Because it seems the federal government has come down. And it seems that they have come down to amounts that they can afford to pay in the meantime, while a host of other programs are going on.
We have passed through this road before. You remember the time of former President Obasanjo? In 1999 or thereabout, or 2000, they moved the price of oil to 26 naira or so, from 20 naira. And the labor went on the street by Oshomole, who is now on the other side now. And they said, we are not going to agree. And then the government, to save his face, they didn't want to go back to 20 naira. And then they realized they should shift from 26 naira, and then they came to 22. All right? And Nigeria agreed, and we moved on. We've always been this idea of let's move on. Let's move on. Like that singer once said, move on up. Are we actually moving up one step forward and two steps backward? Nigerians have been moving on. Nigerians have been complying.
What would you suggest would be the way out of this?
Oh, it's quite simple.
Right now, what we're hoping to do, or what I think, I can't speak for the government now, but let's look at what we have been told so far, that this was supposed to be deregulation, the process to deregulation. One of the things that we must do if we would go to deregulation is that we must stop price fixing. And that was the attempt that was being made here. So subsidy was supposed to go once and for all. It wasn't a case of you take up the price and then you have to negotiate it down again. But because it seems the people aren't ready for this yet, the federal government has made a concession of 97 naira per litre. How come we still have a problem with it?
We will continue to have a problem. You remember I once said it on this station that I am in support of withdrawal of fuel subsidy. And I'm still in support. But there must be a proviso. All right? If you are going to withdraw the subsidy, first of all, let us establish, was there actually a subsidy in the first instance? And then how much are we being subsidized? And I've had people talking about fuel being smuggled out of the country and all that, which you and I know that it's not the business of a poor man or the same masses that are suffering now, you know, because these are tankers, these are jetties. So am I going to say because there's a problem, there's armed robbers on the Ikorodu Road in Lagos, then you now tell Lagosian, please don't pass through Ikorodu Road again, and there's a commissioner of police in that state? You know, if the people says that we have not been carried along, and if it is the government that involves three sets of people, or three group of people, the government of the people, for the people, and by the people, if it is on that basis of tripod, all right, that tripod will not stand if other part of the step is not taken along.
Well, hold on. On what premise? Sorry, Chairman. Okay. On what premise did you agree that fuel subsidy fuel subsidy be removed?
On what premise? Well,
yes.
I agree that there's no need for us as a nation to continue to spoon feed, you know, what we cannot account for under the name of subsidy. We had the problem some years ago when we were talking about the issue of import license. There was no parameter by which people are being given import license. And people get import license for a particular thing and they are not actually importing those things and now go and sell it to the genuine importers. And thereby making money, and then the man pass the bill also to the client.
So that was the ground? Was that the only ground?
No, that's among the other things that if we're going to withdraw some. But let me also say that, you know, I've also had the president saying, we are bringing vehicles, 1,000 something. Lagos State alone has over 2,000 BRT, and we have not felt the impact. If they take all those 1,600 and brought it to Lagos, we'll still not. I
want us to stay on this. Sorry,
go ahead.
I want us to stay on the issue right now. I mean, it's not about palliative.
Yeah.
The question is, under what ground would it have been okay for us to remove fuel subsidy? You've told us about how, you know, it seems import licenses weren't, the grants of import licenses weren't exactly following a set out path, as it were.
But one of the ones was to withdraw the subsidy, if there's any. One, it will encourage enterprise. They must make provision for other people to import. Not like today when you are regulating kerosene and what have you, and it's only the NNPC that's importing it. So when you remove subsidy, you allow private investors to come in, and then competition and what have you may thrive, because the same thing cannot be said, permit me if I digress a little bit, of what happened to the regulation of diesel years back, and nothing happened years after, despite the promises given. The same thing can also be said that, yes, we are deregulating in the area of cement, all right, and today we only have about maybe 4 or 5 octopus in that industry, and yet the price of cement that used to be about 400 naira and getting to our shore, and it's been sold for 2,000 something. You know, so deregulation we have to be really better explained and emphasized. And there must be law. Because when you are saying that you want to, that withdrawing of subsidy is part of the regulation, that is just a small aspect.
Okay. How will we get to a resolution if both parties don't shift ground?
How do we get a resolution if both parties don't shift ground? Obviously, we are inviting anarchy. There's going to be those who keep quiet. There will be conspiracy of silence. And the fact that people keep quiet and they are in their homes does not that the problem will be resolved. I can assure you, in the next few days, you begin to see the ripple effect.
But the federal government has shifted ground. The federal government has said, fine, we're not, it's not, maybe this price is not sustainable for us. Let's, 97 naira.
It's not, excuse me, it's not sustainable for who? Who is the us? Is it about us or about them?
It's about everybody.
Now, for example, the same government.
When I say us, I don't mean the government. Now, I mean the government represents the people.
How can you sit down and begin to pontificate? You sat down somewhere with some few people in your kitchen, you know, in a small room, and deciding for the rest of 170 million Nigerians.
There were negotiations to
Negotiations with who?
With Labour. Haven't they been?
Are we running a transparent government or we are running a secret society? We have to decide that.
All right, look at it this way.
Yeah.
Now you say we'll be inviting anarchy if both parties don't shift ground.
Yeah.
Assuming without conceding that government's decision to peg it at 97 is shifting ground.
Yeah.
What would you consider to be Labour's position or Labour shifting ground?
It's not about shifting ground. We are missing the point. The government is missing the point. It's not even about Labour. Labour is even just a minority.
No, in terms of getting a resolution or an agreement,
the
what
thing
is it
this. I understand. You see, there's something about government. There are three groups of people in government. There are people who have the power, so-called power, in government. There's also sycophants in government. There are also pacifists in government.
They're everywhere, actually.
So, thank you. So when you see those who supposedly have power in government, they have this ego and saying that we are in power, we are an authority. You can't challenge our position. They control the money, they award the contract, they give license and other benefits. They give appointments. So those who are sycophants, they play to the gallery, and the man in power think that is in touch. Forgetting that we must move away the military toga and wear the garment of actually servants. If you are serving me, that's why you have come to beg for my vote. Otherwise, I could have been there myself.
So what should the situation have been?
Very simple. If you can just unveil that autocratic tendencies, militarization, today now in the city of Lagos, you see people at every spot. If you can remove that, fellow Nigerians, I understand we are moved. The reason why we are moved is this. It's not by talking to me on the pages on national television. Let committee beyond you sit down and don't let them.
But there's a committee already, the Christopher Kolade and the Belgore committee.
The Christopher Kolade that was set up, that was not even backed by any reason, and that has no power to spend any money. The 2012 budget is already in the house. Is there the portion that Christopher Kolade is going to spend?
The Belgore committee was supposed to meet with Labour and iron out whatever rough points they have.
If the committee, Kolade committee or whatever, it's not about...
Not the Kolade committee now. We're talking about the Belgore committee that was meant to meet with Labour as a result of whatever grievances might come out of deregulation, as it were.
That is why I said that. You see, there are civil servants who are also very powerful. They are in government and they are in government places. We have passed through this road before. We are not tired of setting committee. We are not starting up reports. When the president came into power, he set up a committee, Justice Ways Committee, and they passed their resolution, and they will use that one to buy time.
So your point is, government should what? First and foremost, get it back to where it was.
The people have spoken. Unfortunately, the majority is having their say, and minority is having their way.